This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. My name is Joe George on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio, and the Cubs win 11-0. What a great way to start the week and a good series weekend win against the St. Louis Cardinals. Lots to talk about on the show, what we saw from the offense, what we saw from Matthew Boyd, the AllStar snubs, the terrible broadcast. Two things we're going to talk about. I'm not normally one to talk about a broadcast and the issues that happen, but we'll have to today because the Cubs spanked the Cardinals so badly. And today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money using code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. You guys are more than welcome to drop in your comments and questions here in the chat as well. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we will talk about on today's show. Again, we'll talk about Seiya Suzuki and Michael Busch not making the All-Star team at the end of the show. But we'll start today's show off with our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, so in an 11-0 win, there's lots of options that you can go through for who could be the Locked On Player of the Game. You have a ton of guys with RBIs on the day and really contribute to the offense. But you know what? We're going to settle in with Matthew Boyd. 5 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts on the day. The All-Star named a reserve or named a All-Star pitcher today for the National League. 9 punch-outs on the day that it happens for him, which is such an incredible story. Again, like you think back to, they showed it during the broadcast, like how little he had pitched the last couple of years, coming back from all the injuries he's faced to make the All-Star team and pitch the way he has this year has been incredible. But he was absolutely dominant in this game. But what I like the most about Matthew Boyd in this game is what happened early on. Okay, so the top of the first inning, Wilson Contreras hits into the shift. So Nico stops it, but still not. So there's not major damage, right? But it's first and second with 1 out. What does Matthew Boyd do? He strikes out the next 2 batters. So he gets in a little bit of trouble, and he gets 2 strikeouts there in the top of the first inning. Then in the top of the second, you get the leadoff doubles. You got another running in scoring position, the challenge thing that happened. We'll discuss later. Again, runner in scoring position with 1 out. And what does Matthew Boyd do? Back-to-back strikeouts, end of the inning. So even early on, when there was any chance for the St. Louis Cardinals to put something together against the Cubs, he absolutely shuts it down, strikes out their hitters. It doesn't matter who's up there. He absolutely goes out there and just shoves when he needs to the most. So Matthew Boyd continues to be excellent for this team. To me, I think it adds even more pressure. Like when you see what's happening there with Boyd, what's happening with the lineup in these games, I think it adds pressure to Jed Hoerner in the front office to go out there and add at the deadline, because Boyd continues to look like a guy that between him and Shota that you feel like in a playoff series you can trust. In a 5-game series, you can trust Matthew Boyd out there. It doesn't matter if it's lefty, righty, who he's facing. I mean, this start puts it now 14 of his 18 starts this year. He is allowing 2 earned runs or less. So he's just flat out dominating every team he's facing. So kudos to him and what he has done this year for the Cubs, because without him, I don't know where they'd be at. Like without Justin Steele, Shota missing all that time, and then now for Boyd to come in and be the signing that he's been, I think it has taken his, the expectations that were, I would say, low for me going into the season have been fantastic. And he's been so far above and beyond them in this season. Also, before we get to the lineup and what we saw, welcome back to the team, Jordan Wicks. 3 1/3, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, 41 pitches on a day after. Now, the Cubs are off tomorrow, yes. But you threw, 7 pitchers in Saturday's game? So and Wicks was fantastic. He was going out there, really looked like he had control over everything against the Cardinals. And that can be, hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Like there's a lot to believe in, I think, with Wicks still. I think there's still a good pitcher in there for the Cubs. So for him to go out there and pitch the way he did, maybe coming out of the All-Star break or maybe the next time through the rotation, like maybe he just comes in and ends up being the guy that helps fill that void with Tyon being left out or being hurt now for the next month or so, or month plus, the Cubs said. So great to see Wicks return and pitch the way he did. A couple questions in here about Palencia pitching at the end of the game. My guess is for the day off tomorrow. Just want to get some work in. No big deal. I think it's – honestly, I thought Craig Counsell was bringing John Birdie back in. I thought that was going to be the move that was happening in the moment. I didn't realize that Palencia was going to come in there and get some work. The ESPN didn't show the bullpen, I don't think so. I missed it if they did. So yeah, I thought Birdie was coming in there at the end of the game, not Palencia, but he's just getting some. My guess is some working with the off day coming up tomorrow. So the Cubs win 11-0. Great performance by the pitching staff in this one. All right, let's talk about what happened, what we saw from the lineup today, because they throttled the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, you've got a day where I think before the game they said it was like 24 miles an hour blowing in from right field. You have an hour rain delay, so that kind of adds to also what's impressive about Matthew Boyd real quick is sometimes that it really gets a pitcher out of their rhythm. We see pitchers struggle with rain delays all the time across Major League Baseball. So I think that also adds to how impressive it was to what he did today. But the Cubs lineup obviously showed up in a major way, and it started right away. Bottom of the first inning, Kyle Tucker walk and stolen base. PCA brings him in there to make it 1-0. Yes, there was a misplay and left, but he gets the runner in. Now, quick pause on the good stuff. The one moment this game really where the Cubs didn't come through was after this, where you have runners on first and second with 2 outs, and Dansby doesn't bring it in. But aside, again, talked about this yesterday, when you win, those things don't matter as much. But bottom of the second, Nico Hoerner, who was a home run away from the cycle today, hits the double. Moves to third on the ground out. Shaw and Happ both walk, so you've got bases loaded. Kyle Tucker comes up first and gets the 2 RBI singles, so it's first and third with 1 out. You get the weird chopper that gets Ian Happ in the rundown, but it's 3-0 there at the end of the second inning. And then in the third inning, the Cubs explode. You go Bush single, Swanson walk, Nico single, bases are loaded. Reese McGuire, again, the catcher position just continues to produce for the Cubs. It doesn't matter if it's McGuire, Amaya, Kelly, it just continues to produce. He gets the RBI single with bases loaded, so it's 4-0 Cubs there. Shaw hits the grounder to third, but the Cubs score on the error on the bad throw to home. Ian Happ drives in a run on a ground out, and then Kyle Tucker brings in his third run of the day on the sac fly. And then Seiya Suzuki, who was absolutely snubbed. We'll talk more about that after the break that we take here in a couple minutes. Hits the RBI double to make it 8-0. And again, Nico Hoerner triple in the bottom of the fourth made it 9-0. Reese McGuire comes up again, RBI 10-0. And then Seiya Suzuki hits an absolute tank shot, and it's 11-0 Cubs. So great stuff. Great stuff from the Cubs lineup today. No complaints, honestly. This series, you put up a ton of runs. Your pitching let you down. Really, Brad Keller, Craig Counsell, you could say, let you down on Saturday. A series that you could say could have been a sweep, but doesn't matter. You win 2 out of 3. You keep Milwaukee at arm's length, and you keep pushing the Cardinals further and further back as well in this division race, which it's going to be a long season in terms of that. It feels like Milwaukee's not going anywhere, so if you can at least put some separation between you and the Cardinals, so it's only a 2-team race instead of a 3-team race, I take that as a very positive thing. All right, we will take our break here. When we get back, let's talk about your comments, your questions live here on YouTube are more than welcome in. That's when we'll get to them more here. We'll talk about the All-Star voting, what happened, the players that were not selected for the Cubs, the players that were as well, of course, and anything else you guys want to hit on here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. If you ever wish managing your money felt easier, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, so you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. Look, you can use it where you can see if you're eating out too much, ordering too much takeout, too much, like all of that. It's just easier to see it with Monarch Money, everything right in front of you on the app. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, Seiya Suzuki and Michael Busch do not make the All-Star game. Disappointing. A couple comments here in the chat as people are discussing those guys being snubbed out. I do think that it's reasonable to think that at least one of them will eventually make the All-Star game when guys start, pulling themselves out of the competition and are not going to play in the game. So I would expect to see at least Suzuki or Busch make it. I mean, Busch, again, he continues to just be on an absolute heater. I mean, tonight, didn't really mention him much there, but another 2-hit night, 2 for 3 in this one, the double at the end. He just continues to make very good contact. I mean, this was a phenomenal series. Like, if you do a player of the series, we don't really do that, but I mean, Michael Busch has got to be the guy. 4 home runs, I think 3 multi-hit games. He's crushing the baseball right now. He's high up there in OPS. I think he's top 5. But all of what Michael Busch is doing is it's phenomenal. He has been, again, I think I've said this the last couple days, but I feel like the underappreciated part of this Cubs team, of everything, of where the Cubs are top 3 and top 5 and all these different offensive categories, Michael Busch has been a huge part of that. And where the Cubs are right now, I think this recent stretch, he's been pushing a lot of that. So it's disappointing for Busch and Suzuki. I mean, Seiya Suzuki is let's find the stat here that I found. He's the first Cubs player with 25 home runs and 70 RBIs before the All-Star break since Sammy Sosa did it in 2001. The first player to do something as a Cub since Sammy Sosa in 2001. And it shows you how good Seiya Suzuki. I mean, look, he leads all of baseball in RBIs. Honestly, I think it's crazy. The guy who leads all of baseball in RBIs is not on the All-Star team. I get it for DHs. You have Schwarber, who I know we all love, and you have Ohtani. It's hard to break through at that position. They're probably considering Suzuki. I don't know what the Cubs, I don't remember what they listed him as on the ballot, if he was listed as an outfielder or a DH. So I get it, why it's tough for him to be there, but he leads all RBIs, all of baseball in RBIs. So I guess even though he isn't, an All-Star, I give him credit. Like, that's what matters more. He deserves the recognition, yes, but what matters the most is that he has set a career high in home runs on already, and he is already, he's crushing the baseball on a pretty consistent basis for the Cubs. It just the home run tonight, another example. So look, the Cubs just, I think at least, like I said, one of those guys will make it. But Matthew Boyd, he was named an All-Star. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. It's so well deserving for how he's done and how he's pitched. I don't think someone asked in the chat if he'll start. I don't think so. I think they're going to put Skeens out there if all is possible, just because you want to showcase the future of baseball. No offense to Matthew Boyd, I wouldn't put him in that category. He's awesome for the Cubs, but Paul Skeens is the future of Major League Baseball at this point. So my guess is we'll see Skeens start. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think when you think about the All-Stars, it's Carson Kelly also. I would say not missed. I don't think Carson Kelly deserved to be an All-Star. I that might be blasphemous a little bit, but the way he started the season, yes. The way it went for a little bit, no. Now he's back on track again. He's playing much better as of late. He's really, helped get this thing going again in the right direction for the Cubs, but not an All-Star level. So I'm not too surprised that Carson Kelly did not make the All-Star game. A couple quick comments here on just before we get to some more questions and comments here in the chat live here on YouTube. The broadcast was tough tonight. 2 parts. First of all, I was taking all these notes about basically just calling Craig Counsell every name in the book that I could say without getting in trouble from Locked On because he challenged the Kyle Tucker play. Only to find out he didn't. He didn't challenge it. It was ruled out on the field. The Cardinals challenged it. It was one of the most confusing things I've ever seen watching a baseball game. I was so lost on what was happening. And clearly they were lost too. Awful, cannot happen. And then the one that happened, I think it was going into the bottom of the 5th inning, where they basically insinuated there was a lightning delay because everyone came off the field because they thought there was only 2 strikes, but really there was 3 strikes and the inning was just over, and the Cubs and the Cardinals were just returning to the field or to their respective dugouts. Like very confused on what was happening there too. And all of a sudden I'm looking on Twitter and everything to figure out there's a lightning delay. And then all of a sudden they're just back out there and the Cubs are batting, I think it is. So it was brutal. Just a quick note there. A couple comments here in the chat. Let's see, from Lane here saying the Cubs need help at third base. Look, yes, I think they do. But yes and no. Okay. Matt Shaw's played phenomenal defense this year. He has played at a level that honestly I did not realize he was capable of playing at third base. He is fantastic on a very consistent basis. He makes spectacular plays night in, night out, made another one in the game tonight. So the Cubs value defense. That's why Matt Shaw is so important to this team. But he does look lost at the plate. Now, can you have 2 guys on that side of the infield who can't hit that often? Dansby's obviously much better than Matt Shaw at the plate right now. I'll put it this way. I would be surprised and also not surprised at all. I know it's a wishy-washy answer if the Cubs did anything at third base at the deadline. I don't think you have to, but I also think you could go swing big, and that could be where you really add to this team. Watching this game tonight, I feel like it gets lost in the shuffle with how good the lineup has been, but I think it just depends on what's out there. Like there's all these Cabrian Hayes, rumors about the Pirates. Hard pass. No interest in that. Like just stick with Shaw at that point. But if like Alex Bregman were to become available, like that's a different conversation. So I think I don't know. We'll see. I also wouldn't want the Cubs to give up on Matt Shaw, because when you do look at contracts that are ending quickly, like Nico's contract is ending quickly. So like that could be your second baseman of the future. So unfortunately, it would mean Matt Shaw's back in Iowa probably. But I don't know. We'll see what happens at third base. Nothing would surprise me at this point, and nothing would like anger me at this point. Besides like Cabrian Hayes, like that would kind of tick me off because he's not good. That one would shock me. I know Suarez gets brought up a lot as a potential guy. The only problem with Suarez is I think he's hitting 179 against lefties this year. So your problem against lefties doesn't really get fixed with adding him to your lineup. You still have a hole there. Forgot to mention that with the lineup today, a lot of the damage today done against a lefty. Very positive. Nice to see that. Hopefully that can be a sign of things to come for the Cubs, because I do feel like for the Cubs to get where we hope they can go this year, besides adding a starting pitching, the number one thing the Cubs players can fix and the coaches can fix is whatever's happening when the lefty's on the mound, whether it's a good lefty or a bad lefty. That's the number one thing they got to figure out offensively for this year. And if they can figure that out, that's very, very positive. All right, that will do it for us here on this episode of the Locked on Cubs Postcast. Remember, hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Like the video as well. Plus, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Just search Locked on Cubs, and you can find us right there. So thanks for watching. I'll be back with you on Tuesday. Again, find me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. Peace.